because some people are sick and they may not be here, and then you can look at this. So we'll just go from right here, and let's take a look at this first one. Now, no sound was required on this. Of course, you'll get the footstep sounds. So I like the way the landscapes look in here. Some similar lantern things as the previous one. The long grass is looking really good with this low lighting. And squeaky door is pretty good too. So the aesthetics of that is looking, really, really nice. The skybox there is really colorful, and then the ground being dark, it does feel, it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but it doesn't look the same. So on my monitor, the colors of the sky are really popping out, and so this kind of does feel like an evening scene, like the sun has just gone down and it's starting to get dark out. And I like the holding of the lantern there. It feels like, you're holding a lantern. And this little structure here, it's kind of nice that you climb up it, so it's not on the ground, it's on stilts. It feels very, it has a certain mood to it. You add a little bit of sound, a little bit more sound effects or ambient sound or a soundtrack of some kind and some other things, and you're going to have a pretty nice level here. Okay, good. And it seemed like the basic functionality was working there too. Anyone else have a comment on that one? Okay, nice looking island. I like the little ones out in the water there. In both. Christine. So that had it has a pretty nice looking as I said, environment, but I would add some grass, some actual three-dimensional grass to it, and some kind of skybox too. So right now, this is a basic skybox, but I want a custom skybox that's created inside of Blockade Labs or some other place that you can get a nicer looking sky, not the default sky. Just so we have, more unique aesthetics. So I'm on some kind of island here. Trees are looking good. The ground plane is looking pretty good. Water looks fine, but I'm missing some details here. So like actual three-dimensional grass of some kind or flowers. I mean, you would have that on an island like this. Um, I like the shadows that are being cast here. Should be probably some kind of sound happening when you're picking this up. And we didn't get to the door open part here. So that's something that should be in there. I don't know if that's working or not. It's a pretty nice looking door. You got a platform. So this kind of feels like it's not quite there yet. Okay. Like the sound on that door. Flowers look nice. Skybox looks nice. Yeah, the shooting thing is super fun. You guys can integrate that in a way that's going to be like a mini page inside your level. I think that I think that would totally be worth doing. I mean, you're shooting spheres like I was doing, but what if it was arrows? What if you got a mesh of an arrow, made sure the Z is pointing forward down the point, and then spawn that out and shoot it? And maybe there's some targets or something up there instead of cubes, maybe, or maybe there's cubes and there are hay bales and there's a target on each one of them. And when the arrow collides with a trigger on the target hay bale, make it tight around the hay bale. So if it hits that trigger, you destroy the arrow that you spawned because you named them and then you can destroy them, and make another arrow that was sticking in the hay bale appear, all in the same second. And it'll look like you've shot the hay bale and stuck an arrow in it. So that's something that you could do. That would be a good extra thing that would make sense with this project and fulfill that requirement of doing something extra. And it'd probably be a lot of fun too. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things you could do with that. I like the aesthetic that's going on here. Obviously with these, I know that even if you're going back to Unreal, I want something more than just a gate. So I know that you've got all the functionalities working great, but for the final turn in on this level, having some kind of structure there, or whether it's a gate to a garden or a gate to a house or whatever, and not just talking to you, I'm talking to everybody. I want something that makes sense for your scene, So create some kind of structure that will finish out the scene, make it feel more finished. Okay, this is good. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Okay. All right, I'm not getting any sounds here. Make sure that make sure that your basic sounds that are in the game, that your audio is turned on. Because there should be footstep sounds at least, and I would say some kind of sound of picking something up would be good. Okay, I'm seeing a hint there. So a pretty nice looking structure. I think you walked a little bit through the wall. He's not here today, but I'm just talking for the video. So the environment looks good, that structure looks good, the door's working, everything's working. Your text hints are a little small. I'd make those bigger so we can read them better. You know, adjust the size of the font and make sure you have your sounds working in your demo whenever you guys do a demo. And I would, you know, this is a nice looking environment, your textures and everything, but it's a little bare looking, so I would keep developing it, and I do want some kind of custom skybox. That makes a huge difference on the lighting and also on the uniqueness of the scene, the aesthetics of the scene. It just completely changes it to have a custom skybox. Malaya, let's look at yours. Just one minor thing, make sure you turn on the thing to make it full screen when you do your demos. It's in the window settings up here. I've shown it before. I'll try to remember to show it again when I get into Unity. Yeah, I mean, this has a completely different aesthetic than the one you did previously. I like it. It's got bright colors and that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, platforming on spheres is kind of a really cool idea. Straight up, that's a cool idea too. What if you had something on that building that, you know, you have to shoot it straight up to hit? You know, like a trigger or some kind of target that's facing downwards, and the only way you're going to hit it if you shoot straight up the building, and that like brings up an elevator so you can go up to somewhere on the building, or go up to one of your platforms or something, or opens a portal or whatever, you know, it could, yeah, something. Okay. So yeah, get something like that in there. You know, the skybox with the colors and the textures that you're using and everything, the sounds. It does have a playground of the future type of feel to it, and I think that's a pretty cool idea for a scene. Yeah.
Hello, this is Jaden Sansom, and this is my current demo of my Unity game. Currently, my aesthetic is that you are a little gnome creature trying to get power.
Okay, so this is a pretty interesting
You live on this
environment. There might be some talking there. Let me see.
sketchpad. And yeah, let me dive right into it. You'll need to collect potions. It is
Jaden, are you back there? No.
and this is my current
So
of my Unity game. Currently my
really hard to hear this.
you are a little gnome creature. Trying to get powered up so that you can get into
Check your microphone when you record your demos. Make sure that it's high enough.
You live on this little storybook island, which I got off of Sketchfab.
Oh, that's cool. It's a book.
You live on this little
So it's a
storybook
gigantic
island, which
book.
I got off of Sketchfab.
And it's got some interesting sort of low poly looking models.
And yeah, let me dive right into it. You'll need to collect potions. It is in first person, and you'll be able to collect potions in order to open the gate.
Cool perspective on the camera there.
To defeat the last enemy. Power up, power up.
Okay, probably need some sounds, but it could be I'm just not hearing them. And the gate came up. Okay, so it's looking cool. I would, you know, Skybox is okay. It's very sort of just clouds, and that's fine, but it is it seems like it's contributing to the lighting, which is what you want a skybox to do. Might work on just the overall aesthetics, like the water. It's not, it's getting blown out, I think, a little bit. Maybe see if you can bring the specularity on the water down. Maybe the lightness of the skybox is really sort of washing out that water, so we can't, it looks like just a very light flat surface and not like a watery surface. So even if you're going with a low poly type of look and aesthetic, I would still probably try to make the water look a little better there. And maybe the lighting a little bit. It's getting a little washed out. There is some shadows here, but it's weird. Some things are casting shadows and some things are not casting shadows. So that's kind of like this house is casting a shadow. This structure right here is casting a shadow. This rocks or whatever they are, bushes are casting shadows, but some of these things are not casting shadows. So it's inconsistent the way the shadows look, and it's making it look kind of washed out and losing a little depth that you could have with these models. I mean, I think this is a cool look, but it could be adjusted a little bit as far as the level of lighting and the depth of textures and shadows and things. So I would work on that a little bit here. It looks cool from ground level, but again, this is getting, the water's very washed out here, and the bridge is too. It's a little better over here. That's kind of a good shot. But that's because there's shadows happening here. And I do see some other shadows. Maybe it's just the positioning of the light and the direction of the light. Let me just adjust your directional light a little bit. Find out where your light source is in your skybox and adjust the directional light accordingly. And maybe even push it a little bit to get as good of shadows and things as you can get. All right, Travis, let's take
All right, you're on the island. Just to make sure our shooter test works. Press light turns on. Exit. And that's it.
Wow, you pretty much have my exact door. How did you do that?
Right.
You hack my machine. So it's got all the stuff. I think the fire sound is pretty cool on the when you pick up the different collectibles.
Leo helped me find a proper building this morning in the asset store, so I replaced the white cube.
Okay. So yeah, it's fine. It's a work in progress. You can have a stand-in for now and then, you know, replace it. Same thing with the collectibles, you know, if you want to. So yeah, you have everything working, and you know your skybox looks good. So I would just say developing the scene so that it's not as bare looking as it is right now. You know, add some grass or rocks or something, and you know, if you want it to be a bare sort of ground like you had in your previous one, which is an arena, then you know, add some stuff that would indicate that. If you get these to a decent level, even though you don't finish them for the final, you still might want to put them on your demo reel if you make them look good. You know, just make sure they don't look unfinished or just too bare or anything. But okay, good.
For my Unity game, I went with a similar theme to my Unreal Engine game, which was an island-like environment. I added some grass and palm trees all around the island, and I changed the player's projectiles to look more like coconuts. I also have a locked door which becomes unlocked once 3 pickups are
That's cool. I
collected.
like that sound.
The pickups are in the forms of water canisters,
Is that a
which
coconut?
plays a drinking sound once one is picked up. Once all collectibles are picked up, the door opens and closes after a while.
Okay, so you have a lot of nice things in here. It doesn't look like a complete level yet, but it's, you know, it's still, there's some interesting things like the sound you make when you pick up the collectibles. And you know, you're shooting these coconuts or whatever you choose to make the final thing. We're using an FPS controller in this game. And you know, that's a first person shooter controller. We don't have to make it guns. We can project anything from the character, but it's a super fun thing to do. And it's especially appropriate with an FPS controller. So taking advantage of that and exploring some kind of shooting mechanic that would do something interesting to finish or go to the end of your game. So right now it's just, you're just shooting things, right? You're just shooting coconuts. But you could make those coconuts so you have to hit something that's hard to hit in some way that would take you to the next level. And we had a little bit of that in the previous Unreal Engine game, but this one, because it's an FPS controller, I think you could like do that a little bit more, and that could be your extra thing that you're adding into this game, and to tie it all together and actually make it fun. So think about how everybody think about how you can do that in here. to take advantage of that shooter mechanic. I used flares, right? I did a flare mechanic. And I think that was, that's fine. It works. It looks pretty interesting. But there's a lot more you could do with that. And you could actually make a gun, but I think it's more interesting to have other themed, other themes for that mechanic, that's not been done to death like, every FPS game that has shooting with a gun in it. So think what could you do? Like, what are some other things that you could shoot that would be interesting? Like paper airplanes. Okay, you could throw paper airplanes and try to hit something with it. I taught this to high school students in the summer one time, and one of them did paper airplanes for the shooter mechanic. So, think about what you could do for that. Otherwise, this is looking good. That's a nice looking structure. Super fun. That's a really neat idea to make a structure that's basically see-through.
It's meant to be the greenhouse. I don't have like glass in the greenhouse.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like a greenhouse that hasn't been finished yet, or some kind of really psychedelic house. So yeah, when you get the glass in there, if you do put all the glass in, you could leave some out probably, but it could produce some interesting effects. Making a glass material, especially if you can put some refraction on it, so that it's not absolutely clear. You want a little bit of shine to happen, but you also want a little bit of refraction, probably, just to make it so that you feel like you're in a greenhouse with the glass. You could also put a texture map on it, like I did with my window in my door, so that it has some dirt on it or something like that, so it's not a completely squeaky clean piece of glass. But you probably don't want to make it too dirty. That would have a very, it depends. If you made it really look dirty, then it would have a different aesthetic than if it was pretty clean. So, and some windows could be broken too. That could be interesting. So, yeah, nice looking structure. I like the skybox. You got some grass and things in there. Generally, the look of it is good. And everything's working. So yeah, just keep developing it. I think this could be an interesting. You have to figure out what the pickup should be for this kind of level. If it's a greenhouse, maybe plants or something, or there could be keys. Ooh, what if you could shoot your gold balls at the glass house and break windows? That would be kind of cool. You know, you have a window that has you make a prefab of a window that has a collider on it. And if the ball hits that collider, it's looking for something tagged, whatever you name the ball. And could be rocks too, instead of a gold ball, but and if it hits it, then you destroy the nice window and spawn in exactly the same place a broken window and make the sound. You know, even you could probably even take one of the standard assets explosions, scale it down a lot, and make it a little bit of an explosion look on the window when it shatters, and from far away it would probably just look like, you know, glass. If you took the smoke out, you know, you don't want smoke or anything, but you'd want the like just the particles going like that. Okay, this looks really nice. Very realistic looking. Turn my volume down a little. Okay, so the lighting and landscape and everything, as I said, looks really nice. It has a very evening type of mood and look to it. The sun setting over there with the pink, it's reflecting in some of the water in some of the places, like towards the end when you're walking across the bridge, you kind of see that in the water. And so it has a really, and also you see kind of some stuff up there. It has a nice lighting mood to it. And I think the little will-o-wisp things here that's floating, the little particle things there also add to that. Some kind of sound coming from them could be interesting, you know, like maybe they guide you somewhere. They could be like floating a little bit and making some sounds or 3D sounds, and when you get closer to them, you know, they're leading you somewhere to get a collectible that would then take you to where you can open the door or something. I don't know. So I think maybe think about using those beyond sort of aesthetics and decoration, but actually as part of the gameplay. And something to do with this bridge, going across the bridge. Could be a trap over there or something. But you have to get across the bridge for some reason. Like here, I guess you have the fire on the other side, so you can't go across the water because there's like, you could have a collider down in the water that would, kill you because of alligators or something, or whatever. Some reason why you have to go across the bridge. Okay. So yeah, that looks good. Keep working on that. I think the aesthetic is, I think this is looking as good as the Unreal Engine game. So good job on that. Okay, so this is supposed to be the sort of this is going to be the low res sort of retro look also.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it's a nice structure, and you had a lot of other stuff like texture maps and stuff in the other one. I think that would improve this one too, depending on the kind of mood and narrative that you're going for. I do think you could also like make a skybox that would also have that look. Like rather than the soft, puffy clouds, you could do something that has more of a retro game type of look on the clouds too. And then I like the sound there. It's maybe too low. And are you using the FPS controller we're using, or are you using a different one?
I'm using a different one.
Okay,
It's one that you only walk around with, not jump with.
I see. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I was just not hearing the footsteps that are usually there.
Need to add it to.
Yeah, maybe that's it. And I think, with a first person controller, I do think footsteps are kind of important. Otherwise, it sometimes feels like you're just floating. Unless you want to have that aesthetic of kind of just floating around. Or you are trying to get a retro look that is not, doesn't have that. I would see if you have footsteps on that controller, and you can customize them. If they have sounds, you can customize the sounds and make it so that they're fit your whatever aesthetic you're developing here, the retro look or sound. I mean, you could even sample sounds from old games that are probably on YouTube that you could add into your own game. Just probably write a credit at the end. Okay, so I mean, you have the basic functionality. I think probably the aesthetics need to be developed a little bit more.
Hey everyone, I'm Molly, and this is the work in progress video for my Unity game. My goal was to build a horror game, so for my aesthetic, I chose a misty forest with a dark night sky overhead. The player starts in a small, dingy room with corpses on the beds around them and only a dim flashlight to illuminate their surroundings. The door to the outside is locked, so the player needs to fetch a key from the table in order to unlock it. Once they exit into the woods, the player enters the main phase of the game, where they will have to find the exit in order to win. I'm currently working on a chaser enemy to pursue the player. Eventually, I'll have it set up so that the player can win the game by reaching a safe spot, or lose if the enemy catches them. I'm also going to try to implement the shooter script into my game as a way to damage the enemy, but currently it doesn't have any effect. Here's a quick demo of the gameplay so far.
That was scary. Okay, I like that you're doing something different than you did in the Unreal game. I think you took that one as far as you could take it, and so starting in on a different look and different type of characters and things makes sense. It's really good. I mean, survival horror is a really good genre for first person shooter type of thing. And playing with light is a really effective thing to do with that. The game Alan Wake used light like that. You had a flashlight, and your flashlight would hurt the possessed people that were chasing you, and kind of burn off the whatever sort of black force field they had, so that you could actually shoot them and kill them. So there was a gun and there was a flashlight, and you had to use them in combination. And if you were being chased by one of these things, you could run to like a street light, and you get into the cone of the street light, and the creatures would stop following you and they wouldn't be able to get you. And then as soon as you got into the cone, the street light would break and turn off, and then you'd have to run to the next street light or the next light at a house or something like that. So you could do something where it's like a chase thing, where you're trying to get to a house that has a light or something like that. And using light as a mechanic is an interesting thing to do. Text hints, and or not necessarily hints, but you could have text come up that would kind of give you a narrative to go with your gameplay. And the sounds are looking good. Those creatures from Mixamo, I've used them before in a similar thing, doing the thing with the lights that I was just talking about in Unity, and it's pretty scary looking creatures. So that's one of the scariest ones, I think, on Unity or on Mixamo. So good. I would keep working on this one.
my horrible animation in that video, but
So things are looking pretty good here, as far as the environment. I like the grass and rocks and flowers and trees all look very good with that background. Lighting looks good. Just the sound, I can't hear it, so that needs to be increased when you do the demo. So I guess figuring out where you're going to go, because this is pretty much, it's got a nice look and everything. You're developing an aesthetic, but where can you take this to make it a more finished scene? And so what kind of structure is going to be here? If it's going to be a door, it doesn't have to be a door. It could be something else. What are you picking up, and what's the end going to be for this? So, but yeah, this looks nice right here. Okay. And last
For my
one.
Unity game, I'm sticking with my desert theme, using the same skybox as my Unreal Engine game. I plan to add more trees and more texture to the sand hills. I'd also like to change the lighting to reflect the sunset. My door still doesn't open, but for my shooter projectile, I'm using rocks. For my pickups, I plan to replace the chest cube with keys that the player has to collect to bypass a few bridges and ultimately open a vault, where the player will need to store the sacred text that she collected from the Unreal Engine game library.
Okay, so you're working on a similar aesthetic as the last one. I think the environment's looking pretty good. The rocks that you're shooting, do they have a collider on them? They look like they were going through things. Yeah, just make sure, because it looks like a Megascan rock, and make sure that in the imports of that rock on the mesh that you have, that you generate a mesh collider, or if you don't have a mesh collider, that you add a mesh collider to it, so that when those rocks hit something, they're going to basically bounce off of it and fall to the ground, as long as you have a rigid body on them. You know, the particles have an interesting look to it. Structures with the reflections in here look interesting. It looks like your text hints are not going away. Like it should, there's a timer in the text hint script that you put on the text hints GUI object that should make it go away after a few seconds, depending on what you set the timer to. But it looks like it's persistent throughout after it gets triggered. So I think maybe something's not working with that, or maybe you didn't put the text hints script on the GUI itself. So it might come up, but it wouldn't use the timer if the script isn't on it. So that could be the problem too. You can also control that by manually turning it off, which is basically controlling the enable flag on the object, dot enable, which I did quite a bit in my scripts. So yeah, I would say look at those things and sort of keep trying to develop this this look here. And I would, if this isn't I think you used a custom skybox for your last one. This looks like it might be one of the standard skyboxes. Go ahead and use a custom one. I think it's going to look better than the standard ones. It is? Okay. All right. Maybe it's too low. Like, couldn't you see some more of the ground in the other one? Yeah. So, it's based on where the middle of that skybox is, and it doesn't have quite as many controls as the one in Unreal. You can push it up by going into Photoshop of the image and kind of pushing or moving the scaling the top part higher in the image. But you could also maybe try a different skybox, you know, see if you can find one that's just has a higher horizon line. Okay, those are looking good. Most of them have the functionality that I showed and that is in the scripts that I gave you. I do want them to look like, you know, a complete level with some kind of theme that you have a beginning, middle, and end for. So, you know, think about how you're going to bring up a win state, if using the text hints for putting in some narrative, you could do that. I'm only using it in my example with the door to tell you what to do, and that does kind of frame the narrative a little bit, but you could do a lot more with that. And you could also use imagery that you make in Photoshop, which I showed last time with my windscreen. This time I want to show a few things for creating some kind of booby trap. So I've created cube here that I set some of my ice blocks on. So I have these ice blocks here that I put some transparency on. Let me just turn my sound down. I put some transparency on them, and I have them as a prefab here that's just called cube, and I've adjusted the material a little bit for it to make it look a little bit more. I put some transparency on it. Pulled the alpha down on it so they are actually transparent in the albedo itself. So the alpha is at 70.7 instead of 1, so it's a little bit transparent. And I've upped the metallic on it and adjusted the smoothness to make it look like a piece of ice. So what I want to do is with this cube that I have here, I didn't even name it. Let's just call it trap. So that's going to be my piece of geometry or mesh that is holding up these cubes that have rigid body on them. That if that wasn't there, they would fall to the ground as soon as my game starts. So I want to have those triggered to get rid of that trap so that those will fall down on my character's head. And if it hits my head, it's going to kill me. And then it will restart the game. So that kind of booby trap I made in Unreal Engine as well. So I'm going to do a similar thing here. And I've put together a couple of scripts for it. in my My Scripts folder. And one of them is called Ice Death. And the other one is called Ice Death Trap. And the other one's called I believe Player Death. So I didn't test these or put these on anything yet. I kind of have them roughed out already. And I'm going to try to go ahead and put them on. So what I need for this is I need to import a game object for the platform so that I can destroy it. I need to spawn some kind of explode game object so that basically the explosion is going to warn me that something's happening so that I have enough time to maybe run out of the way and not get killed. So I have a sound for that, an audio clip, and something for an explosion prefab. I'm just going to try one of the standard assets one to see if it'll work okay. And then I have a trap warning time. That's how long it's going to be before the actual platform disappears and the ice falls. So I'm giving it 2 seconds. And then I have a Boolean here, which is a local variable. Actually, all these are local variables, but the other ones are public, so they're going to show up in the inspector. And this one is not, so it's really only in the script here. And it's for keeping track of whether the trap has been sprung or not. Because I'm going to use a trigger for this, I might stay in the trigger for a few seconds, and I don't want the trap to be destroyed multiple times over and over and over again. So I'm going to have a Boolean variable to say that it's been fired once, don't fire it again. And usually do that with some kind of if statement. And then I've got start here, trap sprung, set to false to start off. Now, for something like this, I'm going to use a on trigger enter, so I'm going to need a trigger. And this script is going to be on whatever the trigger is on. And the easiest thing for me to use for that is probably just an empty. So I'll go ahead and create an empty and put this script on it. The on trigger enter is going to be looking for colliding with the player and that the trap has not been sprung yet. So it's got the exclamation point in front of it. So and two and symbols means and the not trap sprung or the trap has not been sprung yet. It's false. If that's true, then the trap can be sprung. I set it to true here, so this won't ever run again. And instantiate the explosion, play the audio, and destroy the platform, and the ice should fall. So that's the idea. The destroy command requires an input of what you, what you want to destroy. That's why I'm going to input the game object for the platform and put that in here as it comes in from the top here, from the inspector. And then I have a trap warning time. That's going to be how long the delay is before the thing is actually destroyed. So it's going to wait a couple seconds, it's going to destroy it, and then the things are going to fall. So we should be able to make that pretty easily. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to go into my, and I'll give you these scripts after I make sure they're working here. I don't want to give you ones that are broken. So I'll go ahead and create the empty first. And I can call it whatever I want. Let's just call this ice trap trigger. We'll call it ice trap trigger. And I want to place it kind of right here where right below where the trap is. I'll just move it around a little bit. If I want to really make it fit, take a drink of. If I want to make it fit, then I could just take this empty and make it child to the trap itself. So here's the trap. I'm going to make the empty child to it by dragging it onto it. I'm going to reset it, its transforms. Done this many times. And then I'm going to unparent it by dragging it into an empty area. Over here in the hierarchy, and then I'll go and move it straight down and place it below that. So that orients it and places it kind of right where I want it. And then I'm going to create, add the box collider to it. So I'm going to go to add component, physics, and choose box collider. And it's just going to give me a random sort of, it's actually doing that because of my scaling, because I parented under the platform. And so it took this scaling of the platform. I can just set that scaling back to 111 on this because I don't really need it to have that scaling. You can see it changed the shape of that box collider, but that's not really how I want to do it. I guess I could use scaling to do it, but I can do it down here with my box collider center and size controls. And so I'm just going to do that. I'm going to scale out the X a little bit so that it's going to cover that entire area. And then orbit a little bit, and let's do Z. Want it sort of right in front of that wall. Maybe make it a little bigger and move it a little bit out from the wall. And then I want to scale it in Y a little bit. And so it's kind of taking up that entire space underneath the platform. And I want to turn on trigger. So now it's a trigger. And the only thing I need to add is a script that will have on trigger enter in it, which is the script I was just showing you. So I'll go ahead and do that. Let me just go back and check and make sure I don't need to save anything on that. It's already saved. So I will go back and add component. And I want to go to scripts. And I'm going to look for ice death trap. And all of my public variables come up as slots or in the component here that I can put stuff into. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. I want to drag over the trap itself into here. First one. I need some kind of explode sound. I'm not sure if I have an explode sound. I'm going to look and see if I happen to have anything already in here. I don't really see any explode sounds from standard assets or anything, so I need to go get one. So I can do that by going to freesound.org. I'll go ahead and do that. I got a lot of stuff open. That's not bad. Kind of like the glass breaking sound there. A lot of retro ones. It's interesting. It has like a little warning sound before the explosion, so that could be interesting to alert the player. But I think I'm going to go with the glass breaking one that's right here. So I'm going to go into that one. Let me just log in. And take a look at what the sound looks like here. They've changed the interface for this website. It looks pretty different than it used to. Used to be really easy to see what type of file it is. There it is, MP3. MP3 will work in Unity. I think Unreal likes WAV files, but this should work inside of Unity just fine. If it didn't, I could always open it in Audacity and convert it to a WAV file. Okay, so this is my explosion sound that I want to use. I'm just going to copy it and bring it over to my sounds folder on my desktop. I think I do have some other explosion sounds in here, but I'm going to use that one. And so we'll go back in, go to my sounds folder. So I keep this organized and I will drag the new explosion sound into the my sounds folder. So it's there now. I should be able to choose it. Okay, this is it. It's, the names on these that when they come in from freesound.org are really unintelligible at the beginning. So You kind of have to remember the number if you want to choose it from the inspector, but I'm going to go ahead and just drag it in. This is the first one in my scene here. So we'll drag it in. And then I need a prefab of some kind. I know that I have some explosion things in my standard assets under particles. So I'm going to go find the particle systems and I want to find the prefabs. And in there, I'm going to find some of the ones that I might want to use. I've got an explosion one. I've got a explosion mobile or mobile, and I will use the regular explosion one, I think. We'll just try that one. And then trap warning time, I'm going to leave it the way it is. So all I need to do to make this happen is really walk into that area. It's just going to look for my player and it should destroy this platform. I'll still have to do some other things on the cubes and on my character to make it actually kill me, but let's just see if it works. Okay, so I walk over here. Wow. Okay, that's a problem. So the explosion is so powerful that it blew all of my cubes up into the sky, well away from my character, and that was not the intention of that. So obviously, I need to look at that explosion to see if I can adjust something on it. So if I double click the explosion itself, I can see that it opens it up in the prefab editor. And I can see some of the things that are on it here. What I'm going to look for is the range, that the intensity could also be something that I could fix. What else? Probably those two things might fix my problem. So I don't want a big range on this. I'm going to put it down to like 1. And intensity, I don't want a big intensity either. Let's try like 0.3. And oh, I see. That's sorry. That's the light. Explosion force. That's what I want. Let's put that down to like 1. It was at 20. I might also want to adjust this light too. But maybe I'll make it not quite as low as I was going to do it. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so that was pretty good. It didn't really throw away the blocks on the side of the house like the other one did. These blocks did fall down directly at me. So I think that's probably kind of what I want. And then the other thing is that I would want to make sure that it's going to affect me if one of those falls down and hits me in the head. So what I want to do is have a collider on my head, because I don't want to use the capsule collider for my character, because if I do, then if I stub my toe, if I walk into one of those blocks, it's going to kill me. So I only want it to kill me if they fall on my head. And so I just want a dedicated collider for my head that's above my capsule collider, that if and set to trigger so that it's going to kill me if something hits it. And that's kind of what I've got set up on this other script, which is the player die script. And there's a "you are dead" procedure that is going to make it look like I'm dead. And it's using an on trigger enter to register the getting hit by the ice, by being tagged, by making sure that the ice is tagged killer ice. So anything that's going to hit me in a trigger that's tagged killer ice is going to kill me. So I need to add that to my player controller. So let's do that. First, let's go to our ice cube prefab. So we'll go to my prefabs, find the cube that I'm using, and I want to add a tag to it. So when I look in here, so this is something I haven't talked about. So I use the player tag before on my player to make sure that most of my collisions are working, because it's the player that's often colliding into things, into triggers and other things. So this player tag is built in, and so are some of these other ones. But I don't have a killer ice tag here. So I have to add my own custom tag. And when you choose add tag, it brings you over to this window for tags and layers. And I currently have one custom tag called fire inside of tag 0. So this, when you see tag 0, that's probably an array, because arrays always start at 0. And if I hit plus over here, I'm adding to that array. So it's going to ask me for a new tag name, and I'm going to type in killer ice with a capital K and a capital ice and no spaces, and hit enter. And now I have in the one slot of that array, killer ice tag. And so that's going to be a custom tag that's now available to me. If I go back to my prefabs, select my cube prefab, and look under tags again, I'll find that killer ice is there now. So you can make your own custom tags, and you can add them to your objects, as I did here. So now every object that is an instance of this master cube is going to have this tag on it. So let's, and I'm gonna rename this if I can. Let's just open it up. Yeah, I want to rename this to Ice Cube. Okay, so I've renamed that to Ice Cube. And it has Killer Ice on as the tag. It's got rigid body on, so they're gonna fall down. And that's really all I need. Box collider, I have to have a box collider, but yeah, it's got a box collider, rigid body. I don't want to turn on trigger here because these are not the thing that is going to have the trigger. The actual player is going to have the trigger. So I'll go back out of this. And if I check these other ice cubes that I have up on my platform, I want to check them and make sure that they have let me just check something. So yeah, the ones that I have up here do not have the Killer Ice tag on them. Or actually they do, sorry. I was just missing it. There it is. So they all have Killer Ice on them. So they're fine. I'll delete this one. So that was one condition in the script that I had to fulfill, is that these would be tagged Killer Ice. And then I need to put something on my player controller. So let's save this. And I'll go to my player controller, FPS controller. I've already got two scripts on it, inventory pickup and flare pickup. I'm going to want to add a third one. But before I do that, I want to add a trigger to it. So here's my actual object. It's a little hard to see there, I can see it better there. The capsule collider on it in green. And what I want to add here is another collider towards the top here. And so we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to make it child to the FPS controller. I don't think I need to make it child to the camera or anything. Just the FPS controller. And then, so I'll go to the FPS controller itself, and I want to add a component, and it's going to be physics. And this time, because it's a head, I'm not going to use a box collider. I'm going to use a sphere collider. And I want to move that sphere collider. I'm going to turn on trigger. And I want to move the sphere collider up in Y. So I'm going to go with the center here and move it up until it's sticking out from above the other collider, the main collider. And I might want to scale it down a little bit. It is a little bit big. I'm gonna maybe scale it down to 0.3 or 0.4. Yeah, that's a good head size right there. All right, so it's sticking out. Anything that drops from above should hit that first, and then hit the other collider. But it's going to go right through this collider because it's turned on to trigger. And that should work. And it should move with my character because it's on the components of my character. And then I just need to add my script that has the on trigger enter in it. So I'll go ahead and add it. Let's add components, scripts, and we'll do the player die script. Now the player die script has a few things in it. It's looking for a dead GUI, which I don't have, so I'm going to need to make that. It's looking for a camera prefab. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to make it look like I get hit in the head and I fall to the ground. And so to do that, I could use a camera for that. That's something that I've done before that can look kind of interesting. And let's see, what else do I have here? A die sound, which I don't have. Restart OBJ. I don't actually want that. Let me go back to my script here. Take that line out. So sometimes I have a restart object for this. I actually put the restart code in here. So I don't really need a restart object there to be input. And let's just take the camera out for right now. I can do that later. I'm going to comment out that line. So now it's just a Boolean is dead. It's false from the beginning, but it's going to be true when I get hit in the head. And that's just to keep me from getting hit in the head from multiple ice blocks and dying multiple times. I want to make sure that it only happens once. And then I'm going to need a raw image GUI to plug in to have my dead screen come up. So I was working on that in Photoshop. It just looks like this. You are dead. And it's a transparent background with some blood that I got from the decals in the bridge mega scans. So I used this decal on my other Unreal Engine game to put blood on the walls of my outpost. And here I'm just going to have it come up on the screen. I downloaded the decal, which gave me, let's see, gave me the texture maps for it. If I go find those, so here it is. It came in a folder called High Velocity Blood Spatter. And if I look at it, I got these texture maps out of it. So a decal in the mega scans is only texture maps. There's no model there. And the texture maps were actually a little weird. They don't have any transparency on them. They don't have a mask file either. So I had to actually kind of cut out the blood spatters from the texture map that they gave me. So like if I open this texture map, which is the main color map in Photoshop, you'll see it's just red, right? You can see the blood splatters kind of, but it's hard to see them. And there's no mask, there's no alpha channel, and there's no transparency. So what I did was I went back and took this white one here, which is this the gloss map, and I opened that as well because it was a little easier to select where the splatters were, because the background is gray and the splatters are white. So I did a select color range, and I just chose the gray area, and that pretty much got me the part that didn't have splatters. And then I just did a select invert to select the spatter part. You know, that's what you might have to do, like to get the actual part that you want and cut out the part that is transparent. So for that, you know, once I got this and I inversed it, I could Control-C copy it and bring it over to the bright red one and Control-V paste it and have basically where my blood spatters were. And so I created a mask from that, a layer mask from the transparency. And then I separated the mask and took the red background and duplicated it so it's on a layer. And then I added the mask to that layer. And if I get rid of this one now and make this one transparent by deleting it, I can see that my blood splatters have transparency around them now. And they still were not, they were a little bit transparent and they didn't look very much like blood. So I had to go into the actual color part of it and start messing with the saturation by pulling that up, and also kind of working with the levels and trying to make it so that that's more looking like blood, because it comes out, it was looking really dark and not really like blood. So ultimately, you know, I got this and added some text over it with a stroke around it with layer styles and merged it to create my transparency and exported this out as a PNG file. So this is what I want to use as my death screen inside of Unity. And I want to put that in my materials folder. So I want to import that in. So let's go do that. I've saved it out as a PNG already, I think. Let me just see where I put that. I put it in this images folder. Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that into my scene. It's a PNG file, 2K PNG file, and I'm going to go ahead and select it to look at my import settings. I am going to want to switch it to editor GUI and legacy GUI. And that's pretty much it. $2048 is fine. That's the size I made it, I think, unless I messed up again, and made it slightly smaller. But sorry, I hit revert. And so once I apply that, I can see that it has the transparency there. Everything looks okay. And I can put it on a GUI. So let's try that. I'm going to go ahead and create a new GUI that's going to come up under my Canvas system here. So I'll add UI, and this time I'm going to use a raw image again. Actually, that's the same as my windscreen. I want to make it exactly the same as my windscreen. And the raw image that I'm going to use is the texture map is the one that I just brought in. I'm going to drag it over and put it on texture. And I want to make sure it's going to come up in the middle of my screen. If I go to my game view, I should be able to see it. I'm going to click native size because I think it's really small. I can kind of see it there, but it's been like scaled down really small. So I'm going to click native, set native size. That's kind of important. And that's going to actually bring it up to the full size, which is actually too big. I'm going to try 1024 by 1024. And that looks about right. That should be good. And then I need a sound of getting hit in the head or something, some kind of death sound. So let's go back to freesound.org and let's do a search on ouch. Let's say ouch. That's not bad.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
I don't like all the noise in there. I'd have to edit that.
Ouch.
That doesn't have the conviction of being hit in the head by a block of ice.
Ouch. Ouch.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Oh, that's really interesting that they took one word and made it into two things. Ouch.
Oh. Oh. Ouch.
Okay, again, I'm going to take the first one. It's good enough for now. I could record something on my own, or I could composite multiple sounds together to make one that I thought was more appropriate for my application, but to just have something to plug in right now, I'm going to just download this one. ouch1.wave. Okay, so I will go ahead and bring it into my sounds folder again. Okay, so that's it, ouch one. And we'll plug that into the player script here. Okay, so I also have under canvas the this new raw image that has the "you are dead" thing, and we will rename that. Let's call this dead GUI underscore raw image, so I don't forget what it is. And so we have that there now, and I will go ahead and plug that in to my FPS controller as well. So I'm trying to get it to update here, and it's not removing this camera prefab. So I might need to add this script again, like remove it and add it again, just to make sure that it updates correctly. Because I commented that out and it shouldn't be there. So, oh, it's still there. Why? So I keep trying to make it update, because I removed the camera prefab public variable. And it keeps popping back in there. So I'm not sure why that's happening. I'm gonna just keep going with it, and hopefully when I actually play the game, maybe it will update that. So we'll just try it. Still has the restart object too. Huh. There is something in this script for the text hints object, so I am going to put that in there as well. And then it has a level to load to restart the game, so I'll go ahead and plug in what I'm working on right now, which is scripts demo 2. I might as well save an increment on that into my scenes folder. Let's do a scripts demo 3. So I just noticed that I do have an error here. Let me just see. Okay, so it could be that these errors are actually keeping this script from updating. So I need to go back and take a look at the script and see where that error is. It's right here, because I deleted that restart object and it's being referenced here. That actually caused an error, a compiling error that prevented my script from being updated for anything that I was doing. So I need to go ahead and get rid of that and see if there are any other ones. Yep. There's something here where it's referencing camera prefab. I'm going to comment that line out for right now because I didn't make the camera yet, and save it. And that should remove any errors. And I'll go ahead and try it out. So hopefully now if I look at this, it should have updated. Let's find my FPS controller and take a look. And yeah, now these updated and they look correct. So it was that error that was causing it, and the errors are gone. So I can try that now and see what happens. I might get more errors, or it might work fine. Let's try it. Okay, let's try to walk over here. Oh, what's happening? Okay. So my dead screen, so something's not working. So let me go ahead and see if I have any errors. Okay. Oh, I see. I'm using I saved again, and I'm actually using scripts demo 3. And so that's a problem. Let me go back and change that now. So otherwise I'd have to make scripts demo 2 part of my build settings, but I just want to use the one I'm currently using. So it should be actually 3. And that should fix that error. And I don't see any other errors. So let's try it again. So I should see the dead GUI come up. Let me just check my script. So I need to make sure that, so this is the player die script. I don't think I talked about it much. So these are the variables that I'm plugging in. And one of them is this dead GUI, and it's being hidden here in start. And then down here, when the thing hits my head and that trigger is done, as long as I'm not dead already, it's going to look to see if the block is called Killer Ice or tagged Killer Ice. And then if that's true, it's going to play the dead sound, which I did here, so that part's working. And then is dead is being set to true, so I don't get killed again. And then I should see a text hint that says Killer Ice fell on your head. And then You Are Dead should be run, which is a procedure in this script that will enable the dead GUI and run a debug line saying you have died, and then start the coroutine restart game, which is down here, and that just has a yield command in it for 7 seconds to allow you to reset everything and basically read the GUI for the end of the game. So the GUI should be enabled right here if You Are Dead runs. And let's just see if that happens. Okay, it did restart the level, but I did not see the You Are Dead GUI. So that's a problem. And let's see if we can figure out why. So we're controlling this thing when we do the enabled flag. It's turning this on and off. In fact, we could turn this off right now so we don't see it. But it's being turned off in the script anyway, under the start menu, right there. So we have plugged that in. And we do know that we're getting to here because we hear the audio sound. So I guess what I need to look for, well, we do know the coroutine ran because it did restart the level, but I wasn't looking at the console feedback because my Zoom thing is kind of in the way of that. So I could try to move this zoom. Let's see if I can move this over here. And maybe I can see the console window firing some of these things. So the only reason I think that it wouldn't be showing up is because maybe something's overriding it. I know that it's there because I can see it right here. And it seems to be in the right position. Oh, I know why. Okay. So it's not showing up because my canvas is not activated. In a lot of these in a lot of these scripts, I'm controlling both the GUI object itself and the canvas. And canvas is being turned off in a lot of these, like in general, my canvas is being turned off. And that just keeps certain things from showing up that I don't want to show up. And when I did the windscreen, I actually did, if I go look at, for instance, the windscreen, the Windfire trigger script, I'm actually controlling the canvas too here. And I enabled the canvas with this line right here. So we need to add that to this script too, since that's the way I'm doing it. I need a Win HUD, which is of type canvas at the beginning. And actually that's going to be maybe a dead HUD. So we'll call it dead HUD in my player die script. Up here, I'm going to want maybe right before my public raw image to add public canvas dead HUD. And it's a canvas object that needs to be added. And then down here, I need to turn on dead HUD. So this line for enabling dead GUI should actually have in front of it, right before it, a line that is for dead HUD, enabled true, show dead, show canvas, HUD. Okay, I'll save that and go back in and try it out, see if my dead screen shows up this time. What is that? Oh, wait. Unassigned reference exception. So I didn't plug in the HUD. So let's go back into FPS controller. We should have a space for the HUD now, or the canvas, and we'll go find the canvas and drag it into that space. All right. Go down to my console and clear it out and hit play again. All right. A little small. I should scale it up. Go back here and let's try. Let's try 1920. Might be too big, but let's try it. Better. So the text hint is really, it's small. I don't know that I really need it at all. Might want to just get rid of it. But one thing that I notice about it is that it's underneath my image, which I definitely would not want. So there is if I go find my text hint and then I look also at my dead image, there are some things that I could try to fix that with. So position Z, for instance. So position Z is 0 in both of these. Let me take the text hints one and put a 1 in position Z and see if that pulls the text out in front of the other image. So let me see if I go to the raw image and I put -1 in position Z. So, you know, when you're working with a GUI, X and Y are the only things you have, right? Z is not really even used, but it is used sometimes to position things in Z space, which is if you have multiple things on the screen at the same time, like I have with this, it can tell the computer which one should go in the front and which one should go in the back. So I'm trying to use the position Z to push the image behind the text. And that's all. That's the only control I can see actually to do that. And I pretty sure I've done that before. So I'm going to go ahead and try it again and see if it actually works. Working. So in that case, you know, maybe I don't want to use the text because it's small. It doesn't look very well designed with this image. If I was going to actually put that text on the screen, I could just make it part of this image. I could write the text into this image. And since I'm not really making them do anything exciting, it doesn't really make sense for me to use this text hints here. So I think I'm gonna maybe get rid of it, and I would do it a different way. And if I wanted to just try it out, I could just comment out those lines for this text. So if I didn't want to actually delete it from the script, because maybe I want to go back and use it, or maybe I want to do a Google search and see how I can move that forward or backwards in Z space. You know, what I want to do instead of deleting it is just remove the text hints part. So there's three things here. There's where I'm bringing in the text hints object at the top. I could comment that out. Once I comment that out, everything that's referencing that text hints object is going to turn red and have a squiggly line under it. And that means that it can't find, it's an error, it can't find that text hints object. So I'm going to, or variable in this case. So I'm going to comment out that line too. And now those lines aren't running. If there's no other references to text hints, I shouldn't see any other squiggly lines. I can save it, go back in, play the game again, and now the text is gone. Okay, so that's all working okay. I'm fine with all of that. Let's try something else here. I'm going to save this. I'm going to try to remember how I've done this before. I want to create a camera that I'm going to switch to when I get hit so that it will fall on the ground and it'll look like me falling on the ground. Like I've been hit and I've fallen down. So I'm going to go and I want to create a camera. It's a new camera in the scene. Now, one thing that if you're going to put a camera in your scene beyond the camera that you're using on your FPS controller, it's important that you don't leave the audio listener in there, because the audio listener is actually, you can only have one of those. You'll get an error message saying you can only have one audio listener in your scene. And a camera always has an audio listener. So if I'm going to make a new camera and I'll call it, let's just call it dead cam. And this is my new camera. And it is an audio listener on it, of course. I'm going to go ahead and remove that component. So that way I won't get that error message saying that I have a second audio listener in my scene. And then what I want to do is I want to find this camera in my view and select, or in my hierarchy, and make sure I have it selected. And let's. I'm gonna type in, let's try. Okay. That's good. So here I'm actually seeing through that camera. And it looks like I can't move anymore. So let's try that. So I'm going to add a component to this camera. I want to add a physics component. And I'm going to add a collider. So I have to decide whether I should add a sphere collider or a box collider. I think I'm going to add a box collider because that will kind of fall and settle as opposed to fall and roll. So if I'm a body falling, if it's me falling to the ground, I probably wouldn't roll that much like a sphere collider would. Even a capsule collider might roll too much. So a box collider is probably better for this application. And I'll try to make it fall on an edge of the box so that it kind of settles a little bit. And that would look probably the best. And so I'm adding to the so here's the camera. If I zoom in on it, here's the camera. And I've added a box collider to it. And basically, I'm going to want to kind of set that camera somewhere where it's going to fall down. I might want to, can't really rotate the box collider. I don't want to turn trigger on. I want it to work like an actual physical collider. And I want it to fall on an edge of the collider. So maybe I would actually rotate this camera a little bit. And basically make a, I need to spawn this. So I'm going to take this dead cam with a simple collider on it, and I'm going to drag it into my prefabs folder from the hierarchy. And I'll go ahead and delete the one that's in the hierarchy or in the scene. I don't need it to be in the scene anymore. I'll double click the one that's a prefab, and I'll go ahead and I want to do something to it so that it falls down in a way that's going to be interesting. And actually, I could probably do this. I'll try it the way it is. Maybe it'll be fine before I try to mess with it in here. So I've got a prefab, and I want to spawn it when I get hit in the head. And I want to spawn it exactly where my head would have been. So I'll go ahead and go to the script again and the player die script. And I'm going to want to bring back this public rigid body camera prefab variable, because that's where I'm going to plug in that prefab that I just put the collider on. Actually, I forgot to put the rigid body on there. So let's go back and do that first. So this, I'm going to click into that prefab again. This prefab is not going to fall anywhere unless I put a rigid body on it. So I'm going to go ahead and click down here and add a physics component rigid body. And again, the zoom stuff is in my way. Let me just add that. I know we're almost out of time. So I'll go ahead and add the rigid body, gravity should affect it now. I'll go back out and we'll go to the script. I'll save it. So it should have that prefab in there, and then I want to go down here where I commented out the instantiate lines for that. So I want to instantiate it, camera prefab, and that's it. That's all I need to do. Let's try that. Right now it's being instantiated with the transforms of the position and rotation of the FPS controller. I don't know if that's going to be right. I'll take a look at it first and then decide whether that looks right or not. So what I should see, if I hit play, I shouldn't see that camera because it's not in my scene anymore. It's a prefab. But when I go over here and I like, okay, I didn't plug it in. I didn't plug it in. Go back to my FPS controller and plug in the camera now. There we go. Hit play again. I'm gonna get hit in the head. Fell to the ground. And just screen up. Okay. So what made it look like I fell to the ground and I rolled a little bit was that camera was being spawned. It took over my view because what I did on that camera to make it take over my view is if I go look at it, I set the depth to 1. And that's what I was talking about with those other GUI things that I was trying to make them go in front. The regular camera on my FPS controller is set to a depth of 0. This one I set to a depth of 1, which means it's going to sit in front of the other camera when it gets created, and it's going to use that for my game instead of the other camera. So it looks like I fall to the ground because this one has rigid body on it and it's got a collider, falls to the ground, hits the box collider, rolls a little bit, and then settles with the GUI image on there. Let's try it one more time. Walk over. Oh, I'm really rolling. So go ahead and save that. We're at the end of class. I will put these scripts up because now they're working, and you guys can look at them, try to implement something for getting a death or a restart because of being hit by a trap or whatever, or failing in your mission, whatever that is, and that'll be another aspect to make your game feel more complete. This is going to be due along with some other extra thing and a more complete looking scene. I will make it due next Wednesday or Monday.
Next Monday or the other.
Oh, no, I was thinking this coming Monday.
On Wednesday.
Oh, okay, Wednesday. Okay, then Wednesday, you will have possibly your final game being due. It might be not a final one. I might just say, okay, you have a win. You have a win state, you have maybe some kind of other thing that you've added with the death state or whatever. And And then on Monday, I'll show you something else for a menu screen. And then your thing will be due on Wednesday, and then I might make the final due the following Monday. Because then we could start the final project at that point. Okay, so that's it. Have a good weekend.